give an overview, or?
I can just kind of catch up to speed where we are procedurally, and then obviously the
Number 7, old business.
the presentation.
To amend the zoning map for Elko.
We discussed this a number of times. Initially, we put together a full report that addresses the procedures in terms of holding the public hearing, the discussion, the planning commission, the findings of facts that the planning commission needs to go through, specifically those from section 14.35 of the zoning ordinance. So you are looking at a rezoning of land. This isn't you're not looking at a site plan of any sort. A rezoning isn't something where you can place conditions on it. You either approve it on its merits, or you recommend approval on its merits, or you recommend denial on its merits. It ultimately goes to the board to make that decision about the rezoning. Obviously, we discussed what those potentials would be, potential development would be. That's one of the things that we want to look at. If the rezoning were to take place, what would that mean in terms of development potential? So we did go through that a little bit. We didn't get into the specific details in terms of the ultimate size. There are some site factors that include not only setbacks and lot coverage, but there's slope and tree cover. There are wetlands on the site, so some of those things could reduce the developability of the site. And then most recently, the applicant submitted some conditions, which is within their rights to do. So now you're considering rezoning with conditions that have been imposed by the applicant themselves. And so their conditions simply were to go through the list of uses permitted in the LI district and exclude those that we believe they thought would be the most objectionable to the neighbors. So in a memo that we put together for you after we received that list of conditions, we suggested that you go through and look at those uses and kind of make a determination. By all means, you can discuss with the applicant that list of conditions. If you think there's additional items that need to be done that would make you more inclined to move forward with this, you can certainly discuss that with the applicant. They can ask to have this postponed, change those if they want to. If you feel it's appropriate, you can also make a determination tonight. We can put a draft resolution together based on previous conversations, which we would be happy to amend in any way for you if you'd like to postpone action and take that up at a later date.
Okay.
So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and as you said, the applicants are here. I'm sure they would love a chance to present something to you.
Okay. I guess what we need is something from the applicants as far as.
Well, my name is Tom Phillips. I'm with Hopkins Land Architects in Ann Arbor. We were engaged by Elko to help them with this rezoning project. And first of all, this project is specific to rezoning. So, as has been kind of alluded to, I don't know, many of the comments from the neighbors refer to a project that doesn't exist. We're just simply talking about rezoning. I think Paul and others have mentioned last time, if there was a project, there was an expansion, that would come before the community as a project, and you would have the opportunity to comment on that specific project. At this point, there is no project. This is merely a rezoning, and it was mentioned at the last meeting. This facility actually precedes the zoning of Lima Township, the zoning map. It's been here a long time. Talking with Paul, one of the things I wanted to bring your attention to was that one of the reasons that we aren't even, there hasn't been discussion about expanding this facility is that it would be relatively costly to expand. Not saying that it's impossible, but it would be relatively inefficient. First of all, this is a 5-acre site. It's not a Ford plant. As you know, this is a very small facility that was expanded a few times. Because it's small, it was constructed a long time ago, it's relatively inefficient for the owners, and it has short spans, it's all kind of cut up, but if this facility were to be expanded, this light green area is all like unpaved parking right now, so that would all have to be reconstructed. It would have to be brought up to current, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Paul, zoning, current stormwater standards. We would need to add, not only pave it, but we would have to add lighting, a stormwater system, detention. There's a lot of, before they even were able to get back to square one to start expanding, the site likely would need to come up to current standards, and that would be relatively expensive. So this is not a simple, like, you know, add on a big square down here. The other thing about this site is this orange line through the middle of it is a power easement, is an electrical easement. So there's a power line that runs right through the site and across the south edge of that building. And that poses specific problems for the site. So not only is the site small and relatively inefficient, but it's also would be relatively expensive to add on to it all. So our rezoning is strictly that. It's a request to rezone this site, and so we ask that it stand on its merits. So the modification to the zoning that we asked to amend, we offered to remove 8 of the 18 permitted uses under the site, and we voluntarily asked to remove 16 of the 29 special uses. And so these are uses that we think that is our good faith effort to bring the site into a position where both the planning commission and neighbors feel more comfortable with the potential development of the site in the future, regardless of how and who it was developed with. And so that was sent out on the original letter.
January 15th.
Yeah, on January 15th. So that was our effort to help kind of mitigate some of the concerns that we heard at the last meeting. So
I guess you have to talk to us.
Okay.
the public hearing is closed, correct?
Right. So, I mean, they can.
So would you guys like to ask me questions, or?
Yes.
Yes.
It's still really unclear to me why you're applying for rezoning then, especially when you just went through all the reasons that nothing could change.
Oh, I didn't say nothing could change. I said it was relatively inefficient to change.
Right.
So I went through the rezoning because I was hired by the company to rezone, to help
But it
rezone the
begs the
property.
question why they're doing this. You may not know the answer either, but
Right.
yeah.
And if I remember correctly, and I think, as long as you continue the use that you're using, it can continue.
Correct.
Once you stop that use, that's the only reason it would change. So it's not when somebody sells it, it's when the use that's happening there stops. That's when it would have to stop.
Right, and there was
So
some
you can
confusion.
continue to use it as you're using it now, under the
Right.
current zoning.
Correct, in its current condition
Right.
also, yeah. So that means it would never get improved.
You can maintain it.
Yeah, but
You can't add
it would
on.
not, right, but chances are it would not be improved, it would stay the way it is
Or
now.
they could shut it down and sell it to somebody else, because a bunch of smaller places.
Well, that's again why we offer to reduce the number of uses, so in the event that that does occur, that we assure the planning commission, the community, that we're limiting, voluntarily limiting what could potentially go there in the future under the light industrial zone. So I thought there was also some possible confusion under the idea of public benefit. Public benefit is in my experience, is a PUD issue. So if we're doing a plan unit development, we have to show public benefit above and beyond the zoning ordinance, which is different than rezoning, so. Anybody else have any questions?
Madam Chair, if I could make a suggestion to the applicant. it's all fine and good to list the things that you do not want to do, which we appreciate. But I would just strongly suggest to you, which might be more amenable to the planning commission and to the residents, to state what your eventual plans may be. And at that point, people would have an idea of what the intent may be at some point in the future. Right now, it's all very vague. We have a wide scope of things that you do not intend on doing. Okay, but what do you intend on doing? And I think that might alleviate a lot of issues that these people have, you know, well, we want to build another pole barn back here and we're going to use it strictly for storage, or, you know, whatnot. Whatever the intent may be. And I think that would go a long ways to alleviating some of the concerns that these people have, and perhaps as the planning commission has also.
That puts me in a tough spot because that's not part of the rezoning. If there were plans to do something else, we would come before you. If there was a pole barn, we would come before you with a site plan for a pole barn. But I'm not, we don't have a project.
I realize that you don't have a project in mind at this point in time.
Madam Chair, I think the public probably understands though too, if he says that they're planning on doing a pole barn, there's no, I mean, things change, that doesn't mean that that's all they would, that would ever happen.
Madam Chair?
Can I speak if it
I
helps?
think that one of the issues here, and we addressed that in our initial report, is that if the rezoning is done, and they come to, and they do have a project that comes before you, it will still have to come before you, but if they meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance for that district, you're bound to approve it.
Right.
If the zoning district allows for 30% lot coverage, and they come in with a 30% lot coverage that meets the requirements of the district, you're bound to approve it, so, well, it will come back before you. And I guess that leads me to a question, I don't have the number in front of me. What is the, do you know, Tom, the floor area of this building right now?
Everything's at the height. Larry, do you happen to know what it is offhand?
I think we're roughly 30,000.
That looks about right.
So the
Yes, 29,600 square feet. Right.
okay. So the district allows for a 30% floor area coverage, and it's roughly 5.5 acre site. So that would allow, just strictly without any other factors, about a 70,000 square foot building
Right.
total. So they could more than double the size of the building that's there. Now, that being said, there are also topographical issues. There are, stormwater issues. You know, they wouldn't have to bring the entire site up to standards, but they would have to bring all the new development. If they were putting in a parking lot, they would likely build the entire parking lot over for whatever new development comes in. So there would be quite a bit of mitigating factors, but without, seeing a particular project or running those particular numbers, it's hard to speculate how big that would be. So I just want to bring that to your
Right,
attention.
but if we recommended the approval for the LI, then that could happen.
Correct.
But it would also follow your ordinance. It wouldn't be like we just walk in here with an idea and
Right.
throw it on the table. We would be following your ordinance,
Right.
and you would determine that we've met the requirements of your ordinance. So
Yeah, and perhaps you could
it's
go
not a
through the
random
site
thing.
plan approval process and how that relates to these site issues,
Sure, yeah, and it would have to meet the requirements.
environmental studies or anything like that.
Yeah, so I mean, they would have to identify the wetlands on the site, and any standing water would come out of their lot areas, so that would reduce that number a bit. You know, we require additional buffers and things of that nature because of where it sits in relation to residential and agricultural uses. But I think one of the factors that we talk about in our report, and one of the things that you all have mentioned a number of times, this is an existing use, and it hasn't changed, and it's been part of the neighborhood, and the neighborhood has grown around it, so people are used to this, or could be, or should be used to this. I think that the larger concern that I'm hearing is a big expansion of the site. And so how does that then change? And this is the expansion, or the zoning, while it's not consistent with the future land use plan, it has been in place for you know, as long as any of us can remember. So by that regard, these folks are property owners, they have a right to use their property. I think the concern, the consideration is, if the rezoning happens, to what extent could it expand? The owners, I think, have done a good job of at least taking the first step at addressing the use issues and trying to cross off all those uses that may be considered the most obnoxious or nuisance uses to the neighbors. But I think that then the last thing you need to consider is, okay, to what extent could there potentially be additional development on the site?
I know I don't have a public, but who are you? Who do you represent?
He's our planner, he's our page planner.
Or do you represent this company?
He represents the township, he is our township planner.
Thank you, but you could have fooled me. I question all your needs.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I have to get that.
Ma'am, he's
I
just
don't
following
understand.
what the state law on the zoning, he's just following what the books say. It's nothing personal, and as a board, we have to follow the law, just like you guys want us to consider all your concerns, which we understand that. But in
You
this,
say the comments that's
Ma'am?
longer than anybody knows, and one of the letter writers is from a family that's owned land since 1911. That's way before the company started.
Okay.
that's fine. All I'm saying is, the consensus I hear from this group is that we are naive and we can't make a decision or know what's going on. And that last meeting, we were on the take under the table, was mentioned, which is very insulting to us as a group.
Well, one of the members laughed over the topic of tax money. One of your group did laugh at the time, that's where we got the idea.
I think we're getting off topic here.
Yeah.
I think
All
what
I'm
we looked
saying
at
is-
is
All I'm
we need-
saying
We
is,
got off topic.
yes.
because I was getting fed up with the way that we're being treated as a board.
I'm sorry.
I don't think
Okay,
you're
sorry.
naive at all, just to be clear.
Well, you could have fooled us with what
Right.
he was
We're
saying.
just stating our case,
Right.
that's what we're here
That's
to do.
fine, but show some respect for us too.
Okay, all right, yeah,
I was
I think we've had
under
enough.
the impression that the naivete was not being directed at you as much as all of us. Us too.
Okay,
Can I make a comment on the list?
I think what we need, I think what
Folks,
we
I don't think we're
folks,
necessary.
please,
yeah, we need to
please.
walk it back.
Public comment was already closed, and can we please move on and allow the board to do their business here, please? There will be a final public comment at the
At
end
the
of
end
the
of it,
session.
yeah, if you want, but anyways. Is there, now, I'm just wondering, when you had the sale, when Alco was purchased like in 2018 by this Middle Capital Group, at that point, did they do any type of environmental thing? Environmental
I
study?
have no idea. I
Check the
don't-
well, check the septic?
Alco has a number of buildings that are, this is just one of them, so.
Well, I know,
It's-
yeah, I know.
Alco's
Residential,
not, this
we
isn't
have
the
to-
only Alco building.
Right.
I have no idea.
Okay, all right.
Do you know if they did any kind of environmental?
Yes, they did environmental studies and through all the due diligence, they checked all the former wells and the former problems they had occurred. And I believe it's an DEQ.
Yeah.
Checked all the permits and the signs where they
that on record somewhere, is that that was done?
I could only assume,
You know,
part of the investment, I would only assume.
right.
Well, the way I understand it, this is a conditional zoning, is that right? A conditional rezoning to L.
Because
They
they
have put
have,
the conditions.
correct,
Okay. And we could suggest other things that we would like to see.
certainly, and if they're amenable to that, they could,
They could amend it, or they could just not.
and if they're not amenable to it, then they don't have to.
Right. I see, okay. Are there any other things, I mean, are there any conditions? I guess, I don't know, what do you guys feel?
You look at me,
You first, you first.
I think it's a very good idea to do something that should have been done 40 years ago, is zone it correctly. They can't do anything without coming through us anyhow, so. Property values, everybody, if that plant being there is an issue with property values, you must have all bought on the cheap side. So you save that money on the buying side as opposed to making it on the end side. So that really doesn't apply anywhere. This is not a new building, it's a building, or it's not a new use, it's a current use that has been there for a long time, 70+ years. So it's not like this is new, it's not a new thing. When you look at the master plan, it's not a new thing, it's an existing thing. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we can vote on it.
My opinion is, it's a non-conforming existing use. If we rezone it, it will be spot zoning. They've operated for however many decades as they have. They can continue to operate that way. For the record, I don't know what happened in the 80s, but in 1999, they did build a small addition, but that went through the ZBA. We did not approve that. That was a ZBA action, and they have that ability still to go to ZBA if part of the building caves in or something and they want to replace it, or if they want to build an enclosure for equipment that's outside, something like that, they still have the ability to go to the ZBA. So I don't feel like we're constraining them to a, downward spiral with the use that they have going there. As far as property values, the existing building would be factored into the current property values, but if that were expanded, that would impact property values one way or another. However it changes, any change would impact that. And I think it's not a good place for an industrial use. There's a reason it's not master planned that way on the bend of the road. It sounds like they've been good neighbors. It seems like most people are okay with things the way they are. And I don't see any compelling reason to rezone it. And it does concern me that they buy the property and boom, they're in for rezoning. And that's my feeling.
Annette?
I guess I was impressed with the uses that they did away with several, permitted uses as well as special uses. And special uses would mean they'd always have to come to us and they'd have to have very good plans, but they've always been taxed and they were sold as industrial property. They've always been taxed that way. And they were there before any of you even built a house. And you knew it was there when you built, other than the farm. The farm was there. I guess at this point, I'm in favor of them getting a conditional rezoning.
Okay. I guess I'll go next. I agree with Elizabeth. I don't see any reason to rezone at this point. I get a warm and fuzzy feeling if you came in and you said, I want to do a little expansion, and we want to rezone because we want to do an expansion. There's no reason at this point to rezone because nothing's stopping you from using what you're doing now. I think the neighbors have a lot of concerns, and once we do change the zoning to LI, we don't go back. We can't go back. So I am not in favor of it at this point. I think if they come forward and say, all right, we want to get this LI to add a little existing building because we need some more room or something like that, and that's something that makes sense to me. But just to arbitrarily rezone it to LI just because they're using it, which they've been using for a long time, no one's stopping you from using it like that. That's my feeling. And we just did it, so.
Before I comment, I have my own feelings, but Paul, if we leave it where it's at, can there be any expansion whatsoever under the grandfather clause?
They could come in front of the ZBA and request an expansion of a non-conforming use and non-conforming building, and they would have to demonstrate that they meet the stipulations of the ordinance for the ZBA refinery. So that would be about as specific.
Specific on that, the percentage of growth and so on, how big the building is gonna be and so on.
Correct.
Then the other thought I have is we had before is the fact that everybody has purchased their properties after that plant was there, except for the two farms, the farm on the right, the farm on the left. They've been there forever. The farm on the right isn't the greatest farming territory anymore anyhow. But I would, I think I'd go with light industrial with particular uses, only so much expansion if we can do that. Say a 20% expansion of the building, period. That's what I would like to see.
Can we do that?
Can we
Can
do
we
that?
do that, Paul?
Well,
If
they
the
would have
applicant
to
offers
put,
that condition.
they would have to put that condition.
That's my thought.
You can't make that recommendation at a
Okay,
condition.
sorry.
But
I did make it.
but they could, if they wanted to. And you done?
Yes, sir.
Good.
I have no comment at this point in time.
Okay.
I thought I had a decision, but not really. I understand, like what you said, and especially with a company this size as Elko is, there's some reason, they don't just do this to do it. They've been operating like they have for 70 years or whatever. So there is a back reason for wanting it changed. And as a person on the planning commission that is looking out for our township residences, unless they can come specific, I can't go along with changing it just to change it. It isn't affecting their business any, what they're doing now. They're making what they're making, unless there is expansion. And it's like Marlene said, that if there was something specific, fine, bring it in. And if they want to down the line, that's fine, bring it in, and then we'll consider. But for myself, with the residents' concerns, and like they said, it doesn't benefit us nothing, or them or the township really, to change it, other than it becomes a conforming lot. It doesn't change what the company's doing. It doesn't change none of that. So just to change it, I'm, at this moment, I'd say no.
The other thing I will say, I do agree with Elizabeth that it appears to be spot zoning too, because there's really nothing out there. So, and that's something that I don't think we're supposed to do.
Can I point out that the the plant precedes the zoning map, so if it's spot zoning, the spot zoning was created by the township. So there's nothing they could do about that.
But it's ag zone, so, I mean, you know. So,
Personally, I wish you could go back to the chiefs that hired you to do this and tell them, you know, what's the specific reason why you want it done? Is it for future expansion? Because you know and I know and everybody in this room knows that a company doesn't spend the money to do this unless there's a reason.
well, and it does make it more attractive. If it becomes LI, it's a
Right.
building with
Because
light
it's attractive
industrial.
for sale.
Right,
And if that's the
right.
case,
And
well
that's
then
what
have them
concerns
come clean and say, this is why.
That's why.
Thank you. Thank you.
So anyways, where we at?
I think it's wrong for us to assume what someone else's thoughts are. I think we have to consider the fact that they may have come forward to just correct the zoning that was done incorrectly 40 years ago. We have to consider that.
Yeah, you do.
Everyone here has different thoughts about a lot of different things. What their motive is may not be evident, but you have, if someone asks you for $1, they're asking you for $1, not for 100. You've got to consider that. You can't assume that everyone is doing something underhanded. So it's our responsibility to consider that. They're asking for a zoning change. So we've considered it, we've looked at a lot of factors here. We can't determine what anyone's going to do in the future. There's not one person in this room has any idea what may happen to you tomorrow or today. We have to do the best we can for everyone, including ourselves. And we represent the township and we try to enforce the ordinances and the things that were developed under law and developed over a long period of time to do the correct thing for the people in this township. But we also have to respect the individuals that have been in this township for a long time doing types of business that existed prior to the zoning. I understand it's changed hands, but they're doing the same sort of business. So we have to consider that. We have to be considerate of the people in this township no matter what they do. There's a lot of diversity about what people want to do. There's all sorts of things that can occur within certain zoning areas. So it's our responsibility to try to sort this out. We're not trying to create a situation that creates an adverse type of neighborhood over there or create an industrial district. We all know about manufacturing industry in America. It developed in neighborhoods. Many little towns had manufacturers next door where mom and pa lived. They walked to work. That's how it developed. Now we have zoning districts and we have industrial parks. We have derelict buildings where people were once in business and people are employed, and that's changed. But also, it was an agriculture area, and 30 years ago, that whole area was under the plow. It was in timber, it was in cropland. There weren't any houses in the neighborhood. So it's more rural residential now than it's agricultural. You have to look at that factor. The whole township is urbanizing. Look at the next township to the east. Scioto Township was an ag township. Not much ag left in Scioto, or Lodi. Lodi Plains was the best farmland in Washtenaw County. It's all housing now. It's urbanizing. So there are many things occurring here that we have to consider. So I guess that's about all I have to say about it. We still, that's our job. Try to do the correct thing and take things for face value. Today, it seems as though, you're all familiar with politics, it seems like everything has to be done in an underhanded manner, not straightforward and correct and honest. And honesty goes a long ways in a lot of things. That's all I've got to say about it.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, could we request tabling just so I can maybe get back to my client and have a chat with them?
Sure. Wait. Or table it, or postpone it, postpone it till we come back with something, because like I said, it's just, it's hard for us to come up and just rezone it without having any idea what's happening. And nobody's stopping them from doing what they're doing right now.
Understood.
And if they were, then that would be a problem, but they're not, And then once we rezone it, it just opens up a whole world of possibilities that I'm not sure we want to delve into.
Okay.
Or at least I don't want to delve into. I can't speak for everyone. We need a motion to postpone?
Yes.
Motion. I'll do the motion to postpone. So the applicant comes back with their
I'll support that.
Howard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. All right, next.
Nice one, clarification question, what, Paul.
Paul.
So if it does change to light industrial zoning, and then they do make a request to come in and make a change, if it meets the zoning requirements of that light industrial, the board has to accept the change, allow the change.
If I may, yes, so, there are some things that the planning commission has decision-making power or subjective kind of decision-making within the zoning ordinance, but by and large, there are rules and regulations that if the applicant meets those, they're relative, they're bound to approve it. So that's where, as I was suggesting, conditions come in place, they can take that zoning district and further restrict it on their own request.
But any of the ones that they don't restrict.
Correct. So if this was a straight zoning, if it just went straight to LI, then any use and any of the restrictions that they met would be permitted.
Which I think is real important, what the future, their future intent is.
Yeah, so we would obviously go through the ordinance and restrictions, we would put together a full report to identify if there were any shortcomings, and then the planning commission ultimately is kind of the gatekeeper, if you will, before those things get approved.
Can I make one comment on Mr. Mayor's question about what's allowed and not allowed?
Pardon me?
So, I'd like to comment on, Mr. Mayor asked about what's allowed versus not allowed in the conditional proposal. In the letter you have from Linda
Yeah.
Rowe, the last 2 pages, she's
Shows.
detailed
Right.
what would still be allowed.
Mhm.
And just so you know, that doesn't change the Rose stance or the people who signed the letter from the community stance. The list of things would still be allowed is a pretty big shopping list
Pretty
of,
extensive.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Am I allowed to talk now or not?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to point out something. I think something's missed here, and that is that the residents right now are not so much concerned about the present, because we have the grandfather clause in place.
Right.
The grandfather clause protects our future. You take away the grandfather clause, we have no protection for future. It's our future we're concerned about. And regarding that list, when I read through that list of the things they had crossed off and the things they had left in there, what concerned me was they left in many things that had no relationship to their present business. They are protecting the value, or attempting to protect the value of the property for sale. He says it's a crummy location for their business. You don't think they're thinking about selling it? Really?
All right. All right.
I just have a simple, very simple statement, but I'd like to follow up on a couple of things that were said. It's very simple. You said we knew what we were getting into. Well, what we knew what we were getting into was that company being there on agricultural property. So that's what we got into. We didn't get into anything else. Okay? I liked your comment about honesty. What would be really nice is to have Elko come here and be up front.
Many companies acquire companies that are all over the country
Right.
nowadays. It
Right.
happens every day.
I know.
Acquisitions and purchases happen constantly.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. So in terms of honesty, it would be nice to hear directly from them, not indirectly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Right?
And I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
Right.
Right.
There was a comment earlier about, insulting or not insulting, and I think that really what it comes down to is there's a lot of passion here, and I know for myself, if I said anything that meant, it sounded insulting at any point,
I never meant it that way, but the comments that I made at the last meeting have to do with the fact that there were some missteps in terms of communication, and it just seemed a little disorganized. And so that's why it's like, wait a minute, what really is going on here? Because we hadn't been, and somebody said that there was letters sent out and there really wasn't, and so, you know, obviously that would bring up concerns as a resident, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Folks, if we could, please allow the chair to continue with
We
the.
have a final public
There will be a
comment again.
final public
Okay,
comment.
if you don't mind. So we got a final public comment, and now we gotta go to new business, 2018 review of planning commission activities and the election